your friends all have to say.
Hi, and welcome to Pillow Talk with Angela. I'm your host, Angela Stribling, and tonight we have someone who is actually around in the beginning of this show. Do you know this is our 10th year? We are celebrating 10 years of Pillow Talk with Angela, and we've got all kinds of fun things planned throughout the year, so make sure you stay tuned. But this young lady, I just love her so much. She knows her stuff. She's a psychologist, she's a relationship expert, she's an award-winning speaker, she's a consultant, an author, and even more. And I'm going to let her tell you about some of the things that she's been up to. Tonight, we're talking about, of course, relationships. That's what we always talk about. And you know, you hear that saying, I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man in this relationship. Well, let's talk about what that really means. And are you as grown as you say you are? Please welcome Dr. Roz.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm always so happy when you say yes to the invitation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've
I
actually been
appreciate
with
it.
us. I mean, since, if not the beginning, close to the beginning of Pillow Talk.
Happy 10-year anniversary.
Thank you. I am so excited. It's a dream come true, and we get bigger and bigger, and I always love the feedback. So I want to talk about what you do and what you've been up to lately. But first, I'd like to just dive right into the topic, if we
All
can.
right.
Can we do?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I love it, and I figured, you definitely you consult a lot of people, you coach people. What does it mean to be a grown man or a grown woman in a relationship?
Such a great question, Angela, because you're right. People say, I'm a grown woman, I'm a grown man. But do we really know what that looks like in a relationship? And what I mean by that is, are you at the level of having the appropriate emotional maturity
Yeah.
and the emotional IQ to be in a relationship? And what that really means is, are you able to understand your partners, your paramour, your husband, your spouse, your wife? Are you able to understand their emotional process in a way that you're not able to take it personally?
Ooh, that's big right there, right?
It is.
Not
And here's
feeling.
where people struggle because you may have a bad day. And here's the reality of it. If we're going to talk about a long term relationship, most people really struggle because there's a lot of displaced anger that takes place
Mm,
in long-term relationships. Someone is upset with their boss at work, but because they need their job, they're not going off at work. So you get all of that
yeah,
anger, you get all of that emotions when they come home and
yeah,
they walk in the house. And so it's very hard not to take that personally because you're like, I haven't done anything to you all
yeah,
day.
exactly.
I
And
haven't seen you all day.
you don't understand where it's coming from. You're like,
Right.
the last time we talked, we were good.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so
Yes. What do
being
you say?
able to understand misplaced anger and displaced anger and not take it personally, it takes a lot of emotional maturity to get to that level.
Ooh, yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you also, as the person who may be bringing in the displaced anger, you have to take a step back and say, this isn't fair.
Right.
My spouse didn't do anything to me. So they don't deserve me being upset with them. They don't deserve me um, being rude coming
Right.
home. A
Exactly.
simple question of how was your day? And you're like, it was a day. I mean, that's unfair because in that moment, your spouse is showing you that they care about you and they want to know what your day looked like.
Right.
And so if they're met with this resistance of anger or met with this, I don't want to talk to you kind of thing, then you are set it. It's unfair to the relationship. It's unfair to
Yeah.
you and it's unfair to your spouse.
And Dr. Roz, you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you. But in relationships, sometimes we're not that grown when we want something or we're upset about something, and you're just going to take it out on the person who's right there. Things happen if it's that scenario or countless others. I think once you've done it, then you're like, oh, oh, okay, wait a minute. I've acted and I shouldn't have. It takes maturity, I think, on both of your parts to say, all right, I messed up, or for the person who's kind of getting the brunt of this to be able to be open enough and say, okay, I get it and I forgive you, but let's not
Right.
work it out like that.
Let's not make this a pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's
I mean,
easy to do. It's easy to make things a pattern because you know for sure that person in your home is committed to you.
yeah.
You know for sure that that person loves you and they love you unconditionally. And so sometimes you take it for granted.
Right. You're like, I'm just gonna take it out on you.
Exactly, exactly. You take it for granted, but when we take it for granted, that is when resentment sets in. That is when you hear people saying that I just lost interest in a relationship because really what happens is that you are putting your spouse in a position to lose.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be a loser all
No.
the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Respect level. I mean, in no matter how long you've been together, you've got to still respect each other. I mean, these are
absolutely.
that's another part of, I think, showing up as a mature person. It's, I don't care what so and so did to you or what you're going through. This is supposed to be your oasis at home. I'm trying to make the home life peaceful.
Right.
And,
Right.
and person, I'm sure, the person on the other side, feels that same way. Whoever is getting the brunt of it, whatever the situation is, it's like, no, this isn't the place to do that. This is not
Exactly.
that. Yeah. What are some
Exactly.
other examples that you can come up with of people
Other
showing?
examples of showing grown, the reality is that if you're with someone for a long-term relationship, then there's going to be losses in the
Mhm.
relationship. And so maybe the loss of a parent, the loss of a child, possibly the
Yeah.
loss of someone meaningful to the relationship. And not everyone handles grief
Ooh,
appropriately,
yeah.
and if you are not aware of the stages of grief, then when that person is going through the angry stage of grief, then that could cause some problems in a relationship. And so
Mm.
you have to be mindful of that. I mean, I self-disclose a lot, but because it's my lived experience. And so I remember when my dad died, my husband just looked at me like, "Who are you?"
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I was going through the angry phase of losing my father, because if you know me personally, I'm a nurturing and loving person, and I don't walk around with like a chip on my shoulder and have an attitude. But
Yeah.
during
I've
that angry phase of my grief,
But yeah,
I
losing dad,
yeah,
honey.
I didn't even recognize myself.
Yeah.
So, but
Unfortunately,
thank
I know. I mean, I know that grief, losing
you.
both parents.
Yeah,
And you're right though. I mean, I honestly think, I mean, I hate to speak in general terms, but women seem to do a better job at knowing how to take care if
yeah,
her man loses someone.
yeah, yeah,
Men don't, I mean, they'll give a little bit,
yeah.
but I
Yeah.
don't know if they know how to, really give you what you need in those
Yeah,
moments.
I think there were times where he would just, and not his fault, right?
No, they
But he
try.
would just be like, "You need time by yourself." But,
Yeah.
I was processing the loss. I mean, the gift and curse of having a great father is that, when they leave, you feel like you've lost everything. And I really remember thinking like, there is no man biologically kin to me now that has to love me. And I remember, I know it sounds crazy, but I remember being really, really angry about that
Yeah.
and would somewhat, I hate to say it, but I would somewhat take it out on my husband.
I mean, I
He's
don't mean to laugh.
he's like
I
he's
mean,
like, "I He's like, "I can't reincarnate your father," kind of thing. But
oh,
at
why?
the end of the day, My
Yeah.
husband was grieving too because he had a fantastic relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
So he was grieving too, and I remember thinking one day, like, "Well, why you sad? You lose your dad." And that just is really crazy, right?
Honest
But
reaction.
when Yeah, but when you're grieving, like, emotions are all over the place, and so you have to be in a place that's where the emotional intelligence comes into play because he has had enough experience of knowing who I really am to where
Yeah.
he didn't really hold that
Yeah.
against me. He's
So
just like, "We're just going through something right now." And then,
yeah.
we would pray about it and, pray that we get to the other side of it basically.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
I mean, and I love what you said there. I mean, you know each other. You've been together for a long time. He knows who you are when you're not grieving. So
yeah,
he knows you. He knows your personality. And
yeah,
but that's something that you're right when you're together for a long time. If, couples who are watching and listening, if they haven't been through it together, it's a rough one. And, in my experience, I'm so grateful that my husband was here when I lost my mom, you know,
mhm,
not long ago. And, I mean, he did the best he could just in terms of consoling me and all of that. But I don't think, men aren't the nurturers. I mean,
mhm,
they don't know what to do. They just don't.
right,
You
right,
know, just, had to say, maybe just hold me.
yeah,
I'm not looking for any kind of explanation or anything. I just, am so grateful that you're here.
mhm,
I just needed that. And then, but I found myself turning more to my sister and to the females in my family for more.
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes I think, with women, I mean, nobody's going to be, your man can't be everything to you.
right, right,
You know,
right,
he's certainly not going to be your female friends.
right. But that's another great point, Angela. I think sometimes you have to recognize when you are part of that emotional maturity is understanding that your spouse cannot be everything to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have a horrible relationship,
Oh, it's
but
natural.
it's natural. It's just a reality of human nature. Your spouse, they can't be everything
Right.
because they'll burn out. They will
Right.
burn out. They will
Yes.
burn out trying to be everything to you.
You know what? And that's another whole conversation. I mean, my husband is my best friend. I mean, we spend so much time together and I just love him so much. And I love, how we're good together. Our personality types complement each other, all of that. I mean, and we also have other friends. And, my girlfriends mean everything to me. And, there are some things that you can just be free and talk to your girlfriends about that you don't talk to anybody else about, right? It's a different
Absolutely.
uh, of a relationship. And, you know, in this topic, I mean, maybe we could even venture off and talk about that, again, separately, but just not expecting your spouse to be every single thing to
Mhm.
you, because like you said,
Yeah.
it's not, they can't be because we're the opposite sex,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we're hardwired, a little
Yeah.
bit different.
Yeah.
Another thing, and you talk to couples all the time, so I'm sure you've got a great resource to draw from. Couples who are trying to recover from things that have not gone well. Um, you know, being able to say, especially when you're married, this isn't that I'm going to storm out the door and I'm never coming back. You got to think twice about that. I mean, so having that fight or flight mentality,
Yeah.
once you commit, I mean, some people do. Some people get married and, just like, okay, well, I'm out and
Yeah. Yeah.
do it again. But, talk about that, like that. I'm in it to win it, even though right now you're not my favorite person. So what do you draw
Listen.
on to kind of, even though they royally pissed you off and you hate them, you don't really hate them, but you kind of feel like you do.
But here's the reality, it's gonna happen because you're 2 different people with 2 different lived experiences.
Yeah.
And so you are going to disagree. You are going to be upset with each other. Now, barring abuse, that's different. But when you, like you said, when you are in a marriage, you really, as Tina Turner said, what does love have to do with it?
Hmm.
To keep a relationship sustained, it really is about committing to it every single day. You have to make a choice
Yeah.
to commit to your relationship every single day. You
Yeah.
can love the person. There are a lot of people in this world who love each other, who are in love with each other, but are not together
Can't do it or have
because they,
to commit
yeah,
to that.
they can't make the commitment. But it really is a choice to simply commit every single day.
Yeah. I
It
love
really is.
Yeah, that's so true. If it's gonna work. I mean, no two people are gonna just if you're honest, you're gonna have some
Mm.
disagreements,
And if
and
you aren't arguing, then I'm worried.
somebody's lying. Somebody's just
Yeah,
sitting there going along with the program.
exactly, exactly. Conflict is a healthy part of a relationship, and I think people don't realize that. But if I'm always in agreement with you about a situation, then I'm not getting what I need out of the relationship.
That's
I'm
right.
just agreeing to get along. And at some point, I'm going to become very resentful. I'm going to become very angry, and we're going to fall apart anyway.
It's not gonna
So, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 I'm just chiming
Oh,
in. It's
mm,
not gonna work if
yeah,
you're
it's
not
not going to work.
Yeah,
It's not going to work at all. And so you have to be, a bit, you have to realize that there is going to be difficult times. And I
yeah,
think that's what understanding being a grown woman or being a grown man in a relationship is realizing that there is going to be a difficult time, but
yeah,
that we love each other and we're committed enough to each other to work through it and to make it happen.
yeah.
It's a
There you
commitment.
I love
Yeah,
that. I knew I called the right person for this topic.
thank you.
Thank you so much. And when I introduced you, I was saying some of the things that you've been doing. I know you've been giving talks, TED Talks too, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, yeah,
Gosh, that's
yeah,
pretty awesome. So, what are
yeah.
the exciting things that you're working on now?
So I'm always doing my relationship boot camp because I just know that there are people who really desire healthy relationships.
Yeah.
And so I know that people who've been through trauma and they
Mm,
think that love will never work for them or that they can never find a partner because they've been hurt so many times or there's been so much trauma. I run my boot camp so that people know that you can, regardless of your trauma, you can have a healthy relationship.
so,
So I do a couples boot camp and I
yeah,
do an individual boot camp.
oh, nice. So, how does this work? If someone wants to sign up for your
Yeah,
boot camp, do you go away? What is it? You go to a resort? They come to your house? What is it?
it's actually virtual. It's
Oh,
actually virtual. So they can be sitting right in their own home and managing their issues and watching the stories themselves. So if you go to my website, I am drroz.org. So that's IAMDRROZ.org. You'll see all my master classes. You'll see my boot camps. You'll even see my TED Talk listed there that you can listen to. I have healing journals on the site that you could purchase. I also have communication prompts because people do not know how to communicate. And so
no.
I give you starters to have conversations about what may be going on in
It's
your
so
relationship. And so
oh,
you can get all of that on my website.
oh, that's beautiful. I'm so proud of you. I mean, like you, I just love relationships and for people to win and learn how
Yeah,
to communicate better because it's nothing to take for granted. Being able to
absolutely.
communicate that skill set, especially when emotions are involved. When you're in
Absolutely.
a relationship, it's like, you need to be open to understand that maybe this person is processing things a little differently than you do.
Yeah,
And it's worth taking the time to learn how to do it. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
not get hurt. I
And if
think,
you love someone enough, then it's worth it to try to figure those things out.
yeah,
Yeah, I say anything can be worked out.
yeah, yeah.
Anything can, barring abuse, anything can be worked out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally agree with you. And I think, it takes a grown man and a
yeah,
grown woman to be able to say, okay, I'm used to this. However, I do love you and I do want this relationship to work. And while I haven't tried it like that, I'm open. I'm
Yeah.
open to, maybe your way. Or, maybe I didn't realize I've been carrying this baggage from
Mm,
relationship to relationship to relationship. And the way I address things is this way because of all
mm,
that baggage that,
absolutely.
right through going through a boot camp or, something
Yeah.
like
And those
what.
are some of the things that you learn in my boot camp. You learn your attachment style. So
Mhm.
how you actually, I teach you your relationship personality, basically.
Ooh,
So you
your
get to understand who you are
ability.
as a person in a relationship.
Hmm.
Because everyone thinks that they're amazing in relationships, but maybe you aren't. I remember I was at a speaking engagement one time and I was like, I'm a fantastic wife. And my husband said, who told you that?
You're like, babe, be quiet. You're
So
like,
I looked at him and I was like, well,
really?
you, because you still take care of me every single day, but then we had to really have like a serious conversation about that. He was like, some days you are, and then some days, you miss because it's human nature.
That's
It's
real talk
human nature.
here. That's grown folks talk. Because we all do,
Yeah,
if we're being honest. We all do. Right? I mean, we
absolutely.
all feel like this is what I've done all these years, and
Mhm,
this is how it should be done. Well, maybe
mhm.
not.
Yeah.
Maybe
And as a wife, you have to create the space for your husband to be honest with you
Mhm,
because men will lie to protect you.
mhm.
But you have to create the space. So that means you can't blow up. That means you can't
Yeah.
go off. Like, who are you talking to? I can't believe you said that to me. Like, you can't do those things because they will never tell you the truth again. And
Right.
you honestly, you want your husband's or your spouse's honest assessment of what they think about you
You
and who
definitely
you are to them.
you should. I mean, if you want to grow and if you want an authentic relationship, and that's where you gotta, just suck it up and to
Yeah,
just take it and
yeah,
I mean, really hear it and take it in and try
yeah,
to make some adjustments. I love that. I mean, we're all works in progress. And,
absolutely.
but like you said, creating that space for the honesty and the openness and really being able to take it in without, resenting them and or wanting to fire back. Yeah, well, you blah, blah, blah. Because
Exactly.
that's not what it is.
Exactly. 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 So just learning how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
So many of us still have the same issues because we're not communicating effectively. We are saying the issue, we're talking about it, but it's three parts to communication. And this is what being a grown up in a relationship understands. We say the issue, whatever it is. The second part of that is that I understand it from your perspective. You understand it from my perspective. And then the third part of effective communication is that we meet the need. So
Hmm.
whatever it is that you say that you need, and I understand what you're saying that you need, now I meet the need. So it's no longer an issue for us. I'm no
Yeah.
longer nagging you about something, and you're no longer upset with me about something because
Right.
we've learned how to effectively resolve whatever the issue is.
Doing the work. I
Yeah,
love
in
it
the
sounds
work.
simplistic, but I love that formula. I love that all day long. And for all of us who are listening, that's a jewel. Thank you. That is definitely a jewel. You're amazing. Thank you for spending time. I'm not going to take up your whole evening, but thank you for being with us. Give us your social media and your website one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me again. I am at Dr. Roz Aker Black on everything. So DrRozakerblack. So my name is here on the bottom. I'm under that on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and my website is iamdrroz.org.
You're awesome. I have to do some events again, some you know,
Yes.
come out to the Pillow Talk events. So stay
Yes,
close.
that would be great. That would
That
be
was so
fantastic.
great. Remember, I think the first one we had Will Downing there.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah,
That was
that was fantastic. That was a great night.
that was a great night. Yeah, more to come. More to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Roz, her full name, Dr. Roselyn Aker Black, but everybody knows her and loves her as Dr. Roz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening to Pillow Talk with Angela. Check us out every Sunday night, right after the original Quiet Storm, of course, on 96.3 WHUR. Also on Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Sirius XM, channel 141. That's HUR Voices. And we're also on B-Spire TV, a podcast, and you can watch that anytime, especially if you have Hulu. We're on AAPRC. I hope I got that acronym right. But it's basically a network of African American owned public radio stations. So I'm so happy about that. Yeah, honey, Pillow Talk with Angela is now syndicated, but we so appreciate you. Make sure that you listen, comment on social media, tell a friend. And again, thank you so much for being with us. Have a good night.